Hey everybody, it's Tim Hinton, the Beast of the Marching Arts. I'm here with the wonderful Gary Rupert. How are you, Gary?
I'm very well, thank you, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing well. So everybody, we are talking about all the different ways that we are here to help, right? And that's, of course, we here at the Marching Roundtable at Marching Arts Education are here to help. Gary is here representing LCL Mentors, another way that you can get help at Marching Arts Education from the wonderful people at Leaders Creating Leaders. So Gary, you are a coach, a mentor. What are all the hats you wear?
Well, those are the two important ones. My role now is to take in people that are looking for some kind of support. We have a whole team of people that we can draw from. So if you contact me and you have specific needs, say in the case of drum majors, I can send you to somebody from our team that is an expert on drum majors. If you're having problems with recruiting and retainment of students, I can send you to somebody on our team that can help you with that aspect of it. Pretty much anything that you can come up with that deals with the marching programs that we have in our schools, we can help you out with. We just need to know that you need our help, and we'll find the right person to help you.
Right. And the very cool concept behind the whole LCL Mentors thing is that some of you out there, hopefully, if you're lucky and you are in the right place or you just happen to be in the right situation, sometimes I know if I have a problem, I have somebody I can call, and you've built connections. But there are a lot of people that are out there doing the hard work of being a band director or an instructor, and they don't really know who to call when they have an issue. So if you're out there on the field and you cannot figure out how to make this guard transition work, it's really ugly trying to get from one flag to another or getting your weapons to flag, whatever it is, and you just can't figure this out, you may not have somebody to call. There is somebody on the LCL Mentors team to do that. Or you're having an issue with your band boosters or an administrator or whatever, you just need to talk that out, and you don't have somebody to call. Again, LCL Mentors has really experienced folks like Gary, who or somebody else on the team that could help you with any specific thing. So just know that if you're in a situation you're like, man, I can't figure out this thing with my trumpets, or I can't get my student leaders to do whatever, or I don't know what the answer is to this show problem, there is somebody to help you here at Marching Arts Education. And a lot of those that I would channel you to LCL Mentors. So Gary, you were a band director for, what was it, 1,000 years?
Yeah, it seemed like it. 40 years. Yeah, 40 years.
Amazing. And so you have all those years of experience, and you have certain things. I mean, you're great, of course, being a band director. You wear lots of hats, but you are good at certain things. So if somebody was having a specific issue, what would be one of the things I might send them to you for?
I think building a positive culture, and a team, concept within what you're doing, I think is something that I learned over the years. And, when I first started teaching, I didn't have a real clue on how to do that. And then I went on my own kind of personal mission, reading books by all the great coaches in professional and college athletics, religious leaders, business groups, those kinds of things, and looking at what they were doing to create team attitudes and team concepts within their organizations. And then I stole what they did, and I tried to adapt those to using them in my situation in creating that kind of concept with my band program. So I think that's a big one for me. The other one, I think, just is having experience. I was working with a mentee the other day, and we were talking about a classroom management issue, and it was a student who was basically acting out and trying to get attention, and so the mentee expressed to me how they addressed it. And I left them go through the process, and then I gave them other options. And at the end of that conversation, the young man said to me, I would have never thought of that option. And I think that the fact that I have 40 years of experience of dealing with those kinds of situations, making the mistakes that most young teachers are going to make, and having learned, I hope, from most of those experiences, I can share that kind of list of things that you do. It's kind of like when you go to a mechanic for your car, and the car's making some kind of noise. They have a hierarchy of things that, well, it's most likely this, but it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. So they'll go to the one that is most likely, check it first. If that's not it, they go to the next one. So experience has allowed me to create that hierarchy and have those kind of answers that it could be this, might be this, here's how you deal with it.
Yeah, that's great. And of course, everybody, we're talking about LCL Mentors. Go to lclmentors.com or just go to Marching Arts Education. They're there on the site where you can sign up and find out about them. What we're talking about is the fact that you're going to need some advice during this season. Some of you right now are out there in the middle of marching season and you have an issue with your show and you don't know what to do about it. And Gary, as you mentioned, you need somebody with some experience. I can tell you that I can stand, after all these years I've been doing this, I can stand in front of a marching band show and there's something going on and I'll do the same thing you just listed, just like you would. Like you think, oh man, we could fix it by doing this, or this. And sometimes I'll sit down with the staff and I'll go, okay, here are things we could do to fix this part of the show. We could do this. Do you have a dance soloist? Do can we distract everybody over here with, like there's all kinds of tricks in our toolkit that we can pull out and sort of help with that. That's what we're talking about. But there are folks out there, and you might be one of them watching right now, who you're like, man, I don't know who I would call if I can't get that figured out. Well, then you need to contact me at Marching Arts Education and or the folks at LCO Mentors, and I will help direct you to the right person. That's the other reason also at the Marching Roundtable, there are 1,000+ podcasts now and all these webinars. So there's hours of content where you can go and there are probably a podcast about something you're trying to figure out too. So there are lots of different ways to do this. But Gary, I love that sometimes you need to talk to a person and you need to say, okay, I'm having this problem. I need to talk this out with someone. That's where I think the mentor relationship and having somebody like LCO Mentors really can help.
Yeah, I think so too. And we're really concerned about the young teachers, number one, because in the first 4 or 5 years of teaching, that's where you kind of make your decision as to whether or not you want to continue on in the teaching field. And having someone that can help you through that process will hopefully help you make that decision appropriately for your life and your circumstances. And we worry about the person who is in that, usually it's a rural situation where they may be the only music person in their entire school. And in fact, the mentee I just mentioned is in that situation. And he said to me in our meeting the other day that he had a question about the way they did something, but he had nobody to ask because there are no other music teachers in his school. And so, we're concerned about those people in particular. The big programs that have lots of money and 19 staff members, that kind of thing, they're going to be okay. They have somebody that can help them out and they have some connections there. But we're more concerned, at least at this point, with that younger person that doesn't have the experience space, doesn't have the group of people surrounding them that can help them. And we think we can do that. They just need to make contact with us.
Right. And Gary, that's most places. I mean, I hate to say it, but most directors out there in the trenches, are sort of a one-man show. They might have a drum person, they might have a guard person. I hope they do. But a lot of times they just don't have a lot of resources. They don't really know who to call. They may not have a big network. So, if you have somebody, and that's awesome. But sometimes it's a specific thing, like you're not a guard person and your guard is having a specific thing and you don't really know. I can tell you, I know a lot of guard people. There are guard people at LCO Mentors as part of the way this has been designed. You have a drum issue, you have a drill issue, you have a clarinet issue. I got to tell you, Gary, like I'm a good teacher of musicians, but then, if I've got an oboe, I'm a little bit limited in my oboe knowledge. In fact, we did a webinar the other day about the expert lesson series at the Phantom Regiment where somebody was switching a student to oboe and they used that service at the expert lesson series, something else that's at Marching Arts Education, because that was a way for them and their student to learn sort of some of the basics of oboe and get that person started off on the right foot. So there's all kinds of resources. You just have to find them. Hopefully you'll find a lot of them at Marching Arts Education. But Gary, I love that LCO Mentors, all the folks at Leaders Creating Leaders are making this available to people. I just hope people will stop and think of it when the time comes up.
Yeah, I hope so too. And as you were talking about all the resources that you have at Marching Arts Education, one of the things that strikes me is the amount of times that I've heard young people say, I don't have time to do that. And my immediate response is, you don't have time not to. You need to, if you're struggling with something, you need to reach out to someone who can help you, or you need to spend some time to go through, the resources that you make available in your programs that somebody can answer that question for you. Somebody's already dealt with that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you have to take some time to do that. And, that statement, that idea that I don't have time, for someone like me who has the experience of going through this for a long time, really doesn't fly. You don't have time not to search, and find the answer.
Right, but I completely understand how you feel like you don't. I mean, being a band director is overwhelming. You have so many tasks. And I think people just feel like they're hanging on a lot of times. And I completely understand that. I remember being there.
Sure.
And so the idea of, I'm going to take 30 minutes and have a phone call. Like, the point of what you and I both know is that 30 minutes will be so valuable, and you can get so much that then you can use to make your life easier. So I agree with you. It's hard to know that you have the time, but take time away from something that's not maybe as productive. Take the time to have that phone call, reach out, watch a podcast or a webinar, whatever it is. I agree with you, Gary. You have to take the time to find the answers you need, but then that's going to solve a lot of time. I can tell you, I don't want you to spend hours standing in front of your students in the field trying to fix a drill problem or a transition problem. Why don't you take that time, make the phone call, and then go back and use their time wisely by saying, hey, I figured out this problem last night. I had a 30-minute call with somebody at LCL Mentors, and I got this answer. Here's how we're going to fix this, everybody. So that's, you don't want to waste everybody else's time, much less their own.
Right. And it kind of goes back to the thing that you and I have talked about on several of our podcasts, and that is being proactive, trying to think ahead and being able to manage situations before they become bad situations, and having some plan going in. And so the time that you take to research and to, look either for resources or to connect with someone like you or myself, the time that you spend doing that really turns out to be proactive for you, because it allows you then to go into that next rehearsal prepared to respond and correct the situation that you have, as opposed to spending, like you said, the next 3 rehearsals trying to figure it out.
Right. Well, we've all been there,
Yeah, for sure.
One time I remember when I first started my career, where I was stopping being a band director and I started going to do clinics at schools. I would just go to a rehearsal and then I would give them feedback and I would jump in when I could or whatever. Sometimes it was sort of planned and sometimes it was less structured. But I remember, you'll love this, Gary. I remember one time I went to a rehearsal with a band, and they was like, they worked for about 30, 45 minutes. And they was like, okay, everybody, water break. And everybody in this 200-piece band stood in line, got a Dixie cup, and waited to go to the one cooler. And one by one, they filled up their little Dixie cup. And it literally took like 25 minutes. And I was just like fit to be tied the whole time. I'm like, oh my God, nobody has coolers, and why is there only one, Dixie? And like, I was asking all these questions. That was just the way they did it. And I thought, oh my goodness gracious, it drove me insane, because I thought, well, okay, at least just like send the clarinets and let's all do something. But no, none of that. It was just like, so anyway, there's lots of things that you can learn either from the podcasts and webinars, or as we said, from talking with somebody and getting some good advice as you go in. Gary, what do you want to say as we're closing this conversation, everybody? We're talking about LCL Mentors at lclmentors.com. It's one of the services at Marching Arts Education now. And we're talking about the ways that you can, if you're in the middle of whatever issue you have this fall, there are answers for you from the team at LCL Mentors. Gary, what would you say as we're closing this conversation?
Well, I like the story that you just told, because it reminds me of the fact that too often we do things because that's the way we've always done them, and that's all we know. And my young mentee asked me the other day about when I first started teaching, how did I do it? And my first response was, well, I did it the way my band director did it, because that's what I knew. And we exist, your group at Marching Arts Education, and we at LCL exist to help you through that process, to help you see that there are other ways to do things. And it's not that you are not informed or whatever. It's just that that's where you are in your growth process, and you haven't had the experience yet to let you know that there are other options out there. And we exist to give you those options, to share with you our insights, our expertise for whatever that is, to help you. Initially, if it's something that has to happen real quickly, we may just give you the answer, but that's not what we're really about. If it's something that we can take the time to teach you how to manage that process and that situation, so that as you move forward, when those kinds of things arise, then you'll have some process in place that allows you to think through it. That comes with experience. I really believe that experience is the greatest teacher. Well, let me take that back. Experience is only the greatest teacher when you learn from the experience and learn to apply those lessons.
Right. That's very interesting to say. And I remember I've heard Fran Kick say before that actually learning from other people's mistakes and experiences is even better, because then you don't have to make them all yourself, which is sort of your point.
Right.
You know, it's, you can, so, you know, let some of us who have made all those mistakes help you make fewer of them or avoid them or whatever. Yeah. And listen, if you have some band boosters or some money through your school, whatever, you can invest in this. This is going to be really worth your investment for your program or your school or your boosters, or however you might make that happen. And if you really don't have any sort of resources, folks at LCO Mentors are still willing to help you. They will help you figure out how to, how to get the help you need, regardless of whatever situation you're in.
Yeah, it's great that you should say that, because in our last meeting of the steering committee of our group, we had a part of our conversation was we need to make sure that we have in place a process that helps a person who doesn't have the funds, that we can say to them, well, here are ways that you can maybe come up with some funds, or that we can help you do this, so that you still get the services, and, we just do it in a different way.
Yeah, there's lots and lots of ways to make this happen. Anyway, thank you, Gary. It's always fun to talk to you. Everybody go to lcomentors.com, see all the different things that are available. And really, whatever you might run up against this fall, if you're not sure who to call or how to get help for it, please think of us. Think of LCO Mentors. Contact me. I'll put you in touch with them. Gary has lots of answers in that giant band director brain of his after all these years. So
Thank you.
He and the others on the team are all really great. Gary, thanks for talking to me. This was a lot of fun.
Tim, thank you. I appreciate it.
Everybody have a great day. Let us know if we can help you in any way.